I was just wondering how you're going to be, at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Are you prepared?
I'm prepared. I'm all right with it.
October 8th, 2002. At 3 a.m., the fluorescent lights buzzed low above Florida State Prison's death row. The air was thick, unmoving. In cell Q-121, Aileen Wuornos sat upright on her thin mattress, her back pressed to cold concrete. Sleep had long abandoned her. The silence was deep, broken only by distant footsteps and the soft metallic groan of the building settling. She stared ahead, eyes fixed on nothing, her breathing steady, deliberate. Beyond the bars, the prison stirred to life. Breakfast trays would roll soon, but inside her cell, time no longer followed the clock, only the steady rhythm of her pulse, counting down. There were no more appeals, no final calls. Just the sterile chill of the cell, the faint scent of bleach, and the quiet knowledge. This day would not end like the others. By dawn, the countdown would begin. Aileen Carol Wuornos.
That I know that the cops knew who I was. After Richard Mallory died, I left prints everywhere, and they covered it up. And let me kill the rest of those guys to turn me into...
They called her America's first female serial killer. The media named her the Damsel of Death. Between late 1989 and mid-1990, 7 men were found shot and robbed along Florida's highways. Working as a sex worker, Wuornos flagged them down. She was convicted in 1992 for the murder of Richard Mallory, a name that led a chain of 6 more confessions. One by one, the cases surfaced. One by one, the sentences fell. 6 in total. At first, she claimed self-defense, said the men had raped or tried to rape her. Later, she said it wasn't true, that it was about robbery, witnesses, survival. But with cameras off, she circled back again. A decade passed behind bars, cell to cell, year to year. She stopped fighting, said death wasn't punishment, said she welcomed it. After a life of drifting violence and distrust, she called it release. A quiet, final exit from the world she'd come to know. October 9th, 2002. Early morning. The air was still, heavy with routine. The lights flickered on above the rows of cells. For most on death row, it was another day measured by breakfast trays and lockdowns. For Aileen Wuornos, it was the last.
This is the cell that the inmate is kept in up to 7 days prior to his execution. About 5 o'clock in the morning.
She rose earlier than usual, quiet, composed. She asked for a towel and a washcloth, her final act of preparation. The guards brought the standard breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, milk. She barely touched it. For years, Aileen had accused the prison of tainting her food. Dirt, saliva, even urine. She said she'd overheard threats, that she'd gotten sick once for weeks. But today, none of it mattered. When offered her final meal, anything under $20, she refused. No feast, no indulgence, just a cup of black coffee. Steam curled upward from the cup as she sat alone, the silence deepening around her. Time was folding inward. Every movement now marked the final page of a long, unquiet life. October 9th, 2002. Midday. By noon, the sun hung high over Florida State Prison, casting long shadows across the concrete yard. Inside, behind steel doors and silent corridors, the final threads of Aileen Wuornos' legal life unraveled. A guard approached her cell. 2 last-minute motions, one from a Tampa attorney, another from an Ohio-based advocacy group, had been denied. Both questioned her mental competency. Both were dismissed. Wuornos had made her position clear months earlier. She did not want to fight. She waived her appeals, asked for the process to move forward. Even so, doubts lingered. Just weeks before, her attorney, Rag Singhal, had raised concerns about her sanity. Governor Jeb Bush issued a temporary stay. Psychiatrists were brought in. Their conclusion, she understood. She was competent. With that, the stay was lifted. State Attorney John Tanner said she knew exactly what she was doing.
I'm gonna get in depth about my cases, Nick. I'm on my way to the chamber, nothing stopping it. You can believe it or you don't have to believe it. That's up to you, man. Put a big question mark on your film.
For Singhal, the day closed heavy. He'd said it before, no matter what, she wanted to die. The clock moved on. There would be no further delays. October 9th, 2002, 3 p.m. The light outside her cell was beginning to shift, softening as afternoon settled over Florida State Prison. Inside, Aileen Wuornos remained alone. No family, no friends. She had long cut those ties. No final calls, no visitors. But one person was let through. Filmmaker Nick Broomfield arrived, camera in hand. It would be their final conversation, the closing scene of his documentary, Aileen, Life and Death of a Serial Killer. She greeted him with a faint smile, gesturing to the orange shirt that marked her as Death Row. She spoke calmly, saying life inside was okay, said she mostly kept to herself. She didn't go outside much, didn't care to. Some staff, she said, didn't like her, not because of who she was, but what she was, a serial killer. In earlier weeks, she had told Broomfield she was ready, looking forward to meeting God, Jesus, the angels, whatever waited beyond. The interview ended quietly. Another hour passed. October 9th, 2002. Late afternoon. By 4 p.m., the halls of Florida State Prison were quiet. Aileen Wuornos had returned to her cell. Her conversation with Nick Broomfield was over. She lay back on her bed, Bible nearby, television flickering without sound. Letters to her childhood friend, Dawn Botkins, sat folded beside her.
And I still miss her, and I still love her. I'm really sorry about everything I've done. I miss Ty. I lost Tyra over this. And then the people that lost their loved ones and everything. I really think first about the people that lost their loved ones, and then Ty second.
In the stillness, she spoke of preparing, of getting the tears out early so none would fall in the chamber. She said she was ready, that death was freedom. But as the hours edged forward, her voice shifted. Accusations surfaced again. Claims of poisoned food, of sonic pressure on her skull, of a larger plan, that the police had let her continue after Richard Mallory, shaping her into a serial killer. Her voice rose. Her anger swelled. Then the fury passed.
You sabotaged my ass, society, and the cops, and the system. A raped woman got executed.
By evening, a strange calm settled over her. The outbursts stopped. She turned on her side, eyes half closed, and let herself drift. For the first time that day, Aileen Wuornos slept. October 9th, 2002. Evening. As the sun faded behind the razor wire, final preparations moved quietly within Florida State Prison. For Aileen Wuornos, there was little left to arrange. She had made no special requests. No visitors waited. No final calls were placed. Earlier that morning, she had asked only for a towel and washcloth, a simple gesture of dignity. She had refused the last meal offered to all condemned inmates, requesting only a cup of black coffee. It had gone cold hours ago. There were no belongings to organize, no family to leave them to. Whatever was hers remained folded in her cell, untouched. While others might have filled these hours with embraces or familiar voices, Aileen passed them in silence. The sound of distant doors and the buzz of fluorescent lights her only company. Outside, night settled over the compound. Inside, everything was still. October 10th, 2002. Early morning. Just before 9:30 a.m., the quiet of Florida State Prison was broken by the measured footsteps of guards. Aileen Wuornos rose from her cell one last time. Escorted through cold, sterile corridors, her path was lined with steel and shadows. The air was heavy but soundless. No words, no farewells. Each step was deliberate, controlled. The prison's rigid routine moving forward without pause. Behind the walls, turmoil had churned for hours. Inside, her thoughts had roiled between anger, resignation, and fleeting calm. Now, there was only the march toward the execution chamber. An irreversible journey. With every step, the distance closed. The final room waited. October 10th, 2002. Morning. The execution chamber was cold and silent. Aileen Wuornos was led inside and strapped to the gurney. 2 IV lines were secured in her arms. 32 witnesses sat behind heavy curtains, their breaths held in the stillness.
He was brought in here to the actual chamber. At this point, he is seated in the chair in front of the news media witnesses and the official witnesses who are already seated in the...
Among them was State Attorney John Tanner, her prosecutor. In her final psychiatric evaluation, she had shown relief that Florida's electric chair was no longer in use. Before the lethal injection began, she was offered a chance for last words. Her voice steady, she spoke, "Yes, I would just like to say I'm sailing with the Rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus, June 6th. Like the movie Big Mothership and all, I'll be back, I'll be back." Her words hung in the sterile room, a haunting glimpse into a troubled mind. The curtains closed. The final chapter was about to be written. October 10th, 2002, moments after last words. The room held its breath. A guard's hand pressed the button. The lethal chemicals began flowing through Aileen Wuornos' veins. She stared at the ceiling, eyes glassy, swallowing slowly. Tears welled but never fell. Her face remained still, unreadable. Around her, only the soft hum of an air conditioner filled the silence. No coughs, no whispers, not a single movement from the witnesses. The heat in the chamber thickened, settling over the room like a weight. Slowly, her skin paled. After 8 minutes, the attending physician gave a quiet nod. The warden reached for a phone. Silent now, the audio system cut off. A second nod, the curtain closed. The final moment sealed in silence. October 10th, 2002, 9:47 a.m. Aileen Wuornos was pronounced dead. She was 46 years old. She became only the second woman executed in Florida, and the 10th woman put to death in the United States since capital punishment was reinstated in 1976.
I was raped, wearing nothing but a bunch of stuff.
For these procedures now.
Putting somebody who was
Outside the prison walls, reactions rippled. Justice for some, tragedy for others. 7 brutal murders, a life marked by violence and neglect. Her story remains tangled in questions. Self-defense or cold-blooded killer? Mental illness or calculated crime? Victim or perpetrator? The debate continues. Was she a cold-blooded killer, condemned and punished,